Well, hello, and thank you for joining me this evening. Come on in and take a seat because class is now officially in session. Have you ever wondered what makes a school run efficiently and effectively? Have you ever thought about what is high quality instruction? Have you ever wondered how do you meet the needs of a diverse range of students inside of a classroom? How is it that teachers receive funding to buy supplies to engage students in real-world and relevant curriculum? What does a principal really do? Have you ever asked yourself, is discipline really fair across the board for students despite their race or their sex? How is it that funding is applied to a school district? And why does it vary from school to school and from district to district? What rules and regulations really guide the work that leaders and teachers do each and every day? Are students and teachers really treated equitably? Do they see themselves as a diverse unit? Is inclusion really a thing that happens in school? Will you have to wonder? No more. This is the place where those questions, those thoughts are answered, because here we provide access to information to teachers, leaders, parents, and all stakeholders who find value in education. My name is Dr. Christopher Holmes, and this is Teacher Talks. Welcome back to Teacher Talks. I am your host, Dr. Christopher Holmes. I'm so excited for you guys to join me. Tonight, we are diving in, still talking about the warning signs of failing schools. Tonight, we are on episode 3 of 4. We're going to deal with some very hot topics tonight that really are some of the key factors to ensure that your school can come out of the failing status and sustain success over a period of time. What is that? We are talking about strategic planning and the use of data to drive change. So all of the leaders out there, make sure you're logging in. Share this with your friends, your fellow leaders. You can also share this with your staff. You guys should sit down and really talk about these particular topics as you guys are trying to figure out, how do I move forward? How do we change student achievement levels? How do we improve our culture and our climate? You do that by looking at these two factors, strategic planning as well as the use of data. Well, as I always say, it is 9 o'clock. I hope that those kids are down because it's time for the adults to do some catching up. Thank you guys again for watching. I can't wait to share with you. Go ahead, stop what you're doing right now. If you're on YouTube, go ahead, like, share, and don't forget to subscribe. I'm on the journey to 1,000 subscribers. I know you're thinking 1,000 subscribers. What is that? That's not that many people. Well, in the world of education, that is a significant number of people. And so I want to make sure that you are a part of the team. So let's get into the warning signs of a failing school. Remember, this is part 3 of 4. We've got one more next week. This week, we're looking at strategic planning and the use of data to drive change. Again, when you don't have these two things, This is what you find in schools that are failing or schools that are on their way to being a failing school. So let's look at those warning signs associated with strategic planning. Number one, the school leadership does not understand the value of a strategic plan and how it relates to the success of the school. So the question is, what are you doing? How are you going about addressing the needs of your school, addressing the needs of your teachers, addressing the needs of the students in a very strategic, intentional way if you don't have a plan that's in writing that you communicate and share with all of your stakeholders to ensure everybody is on the same page? If you don't value the plan, then you plan to fail. You have to have a strategic plan. Successful environments operate from a strategic plan, and they clearly understand that having a plan in place will support success and increase student achievement. So if you are a leader and you don't have a plan, start working on one now. If you have a plan and you know it's not effective, go and start modifying that plan. Sit down with your leadership team and develop a brand new plan that addresses where you are now and where you desire to go. Just remember, you cannot tackle every issue at one time, which is why the plan is called a strategic. You are identifying those high priority factors that are going to help you move in the right direction for this year. Next year, you can modify the plan and add new components, but you have to do certain things well right now if you don't want to be a failing school, or if you are trying to get out of that status of being a failing school. Number two, the school either does not have a strategic plan or no one can remember when the plan was last discussed. So this is very, very troubling because I've seen both of these. So you don't have a plan, which means you probably don't have an active plan. The plan that you have posted on your website is probably 2 or 3 years old. I've seen where the date hasn't even been changed to the current academic year. It is an old plan. Nobody's looking at it. Nobody's even discussing what the plan says because it has no value. And technically, it's a pointless piece of paper. This will occur in environments where they're just trying to meet compliance. It was required to have a plan, and I have one. I'm not using it. I'm not discussing it. We don't share it. We don't fine tune it. It's just a plan because it's what we needed to do. And this is not because they may not see that it's important, but they're so heavy on the ground doing the work, they haven't taken a moment to step back to really identify a plan that's going to meet their needs. So before the school year starts, get that plan in place. I know some of us are already back in school. Some are getting ready to go back. It doesn't matter where you are. If you haven't had one and you're back in school, start working on the plan now. All right. This is going to be driving all of your conversations in your building, and all those conversations will come from the strategic plan. And if you are talking about things that are not in that plan, then you are having pointless conversation because you've already identified what you should be sharing and discussing. You put it in the plan. Number 3, the school staff and teachers do not know the school's mission, and they do not have a vision for the future. We have no clue who we are. We have no clue about what we want to do. And we have no clue about the direction that we want to go in. That is the mindset when you don't have a vision and a mission. Mission, who we are, what we do now. The vision, where are we going? Where do we see ourselves in 5 to 10 years? And then on top of that, you don't have a strategic plan. This is the mark of a failing environment. These are all very, very, very critical things that you guys should be doing if you want to come out of that hole. Now, let's get into number 4. The school principal does not pay attention to the budget and has little or no understanding of how it was developed. Well, again, you don't have a plan, right? So you haven't established your priorities, right? So when you don't have prioritized needs, you then spend your money on things that you want or desire because you don't know what's important. You don't understand that having resources for teachers, that's critically important. You don't understand the importance of having technology that is useful and resources built into those pieces of technology that includes programming that will meet students where they are, that will support instruction of your teacher. So you spend money on maybe celebrations or football uniforms, or maybe some of the groundkeepings, because you want new banners, you want new signs. Those things make the school look nice, but what makes a school is the type of learning that takes place inside, how successful those students are. So having a plan is critically valuable because it really drives and dictates everything you do in the building. And as number 4 states, it dictates how you spend the money. And we're not just throwing dollars out, especially if we're talking about local and federal dollars. We're not just throwing funds out in ways that don't support our vision. I have to go back there. And so if you look at all of these, one of the themes about who guides his work is school leadership. So that goes back to episode 1, but it's a very important conversation to ensure that we understand that leadership is everything in any organization, but especially in schools. The school leader is the person that should be the biggest cheerleader for change, who's bold, willing to be held accountable, and also willing to make the tough decisions. And if a strategic plan is not something that the district had in place for a while, a strong leader will say, well, we may never have had one before, but this year we're going to start. We're going to start small. We'll work our way up to a more intensive, more detailed type plan. But that leader understands we have to have something in place. Now, let's go into the second part of part 3, which is the use of student performance data to drive change. This is paramount for failing schools. This is paramount for schools that are on their way to being failing. If you're not looking at student data, what's driving your decision making? And number 1, if you're not looking at data, then you can't develop a strategic plan. That's just, it's obsolete. It's impossible. You have to have data in front of you as you select those priorities as it relates to student supports, also how you're driving professional development for your teachers. So the leaders, you see that, right? Leader goes back to the leader, and staff do not use data. If the leader is not using data, guess what? Your teachers likely aren't going to be used data. But you need that data to support your instructional priorities, your instructional strategies, your instructional needs. You have to have data. How are students performing? And what is required in order for them to really access a deeper level of understanding of the content? How do we pull them in with the use of resources and technology, through the use of new instructional strategies that are engaging and really challenge students in a very productive way? All right? Use data. Number 2, the teachers do not understand the value or proper use of formative evaluations and summative evaluations. So let's break that down. Formative evaluations or assessments are those assessments you give during the learning process. Summative, which keyword here is summary or the sum of, happens at the end of teaching. So now you're just measuring how much information did my students retain. Formative guides the instruction. So here is where they are, and I'm going to modify my instruction to meet their needs or their learning gaps. We should be doing both of these all the time. That formative assessment process, checking for understanding, modifying instruction, assessing, checking for understanding, modifying instruction. We have to do that. So if teachers don't understand, number 1, what it is, that's likely why they don't understand the value of it because they're not engaged in that work, or they're not engaged in those practices. They're not even having conversations about these particular factors. So if we want to drive change, number one, we've got to use data to support instruction. And number two, our teachers have to value formative and summative assessment data. And they have to have practices to assess students, right? Number three, there is little or no use of benchmark testing to identify each student's academic starting point for the school year and his or her progress throughout the year. You need to have checkpoints throughout the year where you are checking to see, monitoring, evaluating how much information students are retaining. Quarterly, by semester, however you want to do it, but you need benchmark assessments in place, and you need to be using that data in conjunction with what you see in your formative and your summative assessments, because it paints a picture about students as well as how well teachers are delivering instruction in a way that's connecting with students. Formative, summative, benchmarks, unit assessments. There are so many assessments that can likely be given in a school year. Now, you don't want to over-assess students, which is why I'm saying those formative assessments could look very much like everyday work. They don't necessarily have to be a sit-down quiz or this big testing event, right? We just need to know, does this particular activity help paint a picture for where my students are, what they know, and what they understand and can do? That is all we need to know. So strategically identifying those pieces of practice work for students is important. But students also should not be intimidated or fearful of being tested. That's where you build in that confidence. They understand they are bringing and contributing to the learning environment, and they feel good about the information that they're garnering from the teacher. When students know they know something, they enter into a space to be assessed very confidently. We're going to reduce that anxiety, right? Because assessing, feedback, reteaching, interventions, that's just a part of who you are. That's that culture. That's that mission that needs to also be in place. Number 4, teachers cannot determine if a child has made progress or the extent of that progress. You don't have data. You go to collaborative plannings, that's a great way for teachers to get together, but oftentimes it's just meeting of conversations, sometimes meeting where people are complaining about various things. That's not going to help you get out of the hole that you may be in. You got to be talking about student data. Who are these students? Who's progressing? Who's not progressing? And how much progress can be made? You want to know what group of students can help get you over the hump. Who are those kids that are right on the bubble? You have those kids who are always performing well, so they're going to continue to perform well. But you need to pull a group of kids who are right on the brink of proficiency over that line. And you can only do that if you're looking at student data, you're monitoring that data and determining who has made progress throughout the year. How much progress, and where else do they need support? Data, 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 data. And people should not be afraid to bring their data to the table. It is not a personal evaluation. It is, as they say, what it is. The data just tells a story. It's not about you. It's how we can help you. So don't take that data, leaders, and be punitive with it or be belittling to teachers. They're already on the fence and very sensitive about their student data. We want to support them, and to say that there's some great things that are happening, but there are some areas where we need to address a few things, and that may need to be addressed through your professional development, your monitoring, your feedback of those teachers. Number 5, and the last one, the school is using assessments to measure academic progress, but teachers do not know how to interpret the associated diagnostic tools. That's just simple training. Showing teachers the tool, showing teachers the data, and then helping them to interpret that data to drive their instructional practices. It's very simple. It's not quick. It takes time. You're building or changing the mindset of your community. So this will be a time time invested type of work, but it's good work. It's the right work. It is the work that needs to be done in schools. And these are conversations where you're interpreting that data weekly. You're looking at the assignments you've given students in class, and you're looking to see how well did they perform on these particular tasks. These tasks are aligned to standards. They are rigorous. They're challenging students, and they are a good piece of data, of performance data that will give me a better insight into who my students are and what they know and what they can do. All right. So helping teachers sit down and interpret data is the last critical warning sign associated with the use of student performance data for those that are in failing environments or those that are on their way to being in a failing environment. All right. Well, next time we're going to tackle school culture, and we're also going to get into the school's communication network. This is going to be part 4 of 4. So glad that you guys joined me. I cannot wait to have you guys join me next week. Remember, we are going to wrap up this 4-part series. Don't forget, if you're on YouTube, get over there, like, share, drop a comment in there, and also subscribe. We are trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, and I know that you guys can help me get there. Go and share this with friends, other educators, other leaders. We will continue the topic, the warning signs of a failing school, next week. I'm excited to have you guys come back. Until then, as I always say, be safe, be blessed. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Do you believe in wearing fashions that spread positive messages? Well, Fully Engaged Education now offers merchandise that will do just that. And we are spreading the word that a high-quality education is deserving of every student, everywhere, every day. Fully Engaged Education has now crafted beautifully designed hoodies, sweatshirts, long and short sleeve tees that come in a variety of colors that will be perfect for any season. So go check out Fully Engaged Education and select those beautiful pieces that will be sure to set off any outfit that you plan to wear. Fully Engaged Education is committed to providing information and access to ensure every student can be successful and every student has an opportunity to learn.